Hey, welcome to a new episode of the Business Beauty Network podcast, where business meets beauty. Welcome. I am super excited to bring a new episode to you. But before we get into that, make sure that you are subscribed to the Business Beauty Network podcast wherever you're listening. Don't forget to share it as well. Sharing is caring. So if you know someone who would benefit from this awesome content, make sure you share it out. Make sure that you connect with us on YouTube as well. Business Beauty Network is on YouTube, and we're also on Facebook and Instagram and all of that jazz. So connect with us there at Business Beauty Network and our website at businessbeautynetwork.com. You can connect with me at I am Brandy Taylor on all social media outlets. I will connect with you back there. Share what you're enjoying. Let's connect in the stories. I want to hear from you. DM me. You can also join in on the chat with the podcast. So if you have any questions or suggestions, or just something that you would like to mention about a particular episode, you can actually comment. We will comment back and kind of correspond with you there. I would love to start using this feature. So comment on the podcast today. Let us know what you're thinking. Give us your opinion. And also leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify and let people know how you're enjoying the podcast as well. But now that all of that is out of the way, I have an awesome episode in store for you today. I had a great interview with Dr. Natasha Henry. She's the founder of Derm Intellect, a skincare brand, and we learned more about the journey that she's on in creating her own skincare line, and as she's kind of shifting her career and all of these great things. She has an amazing story, and I think you're really going to enjoy this. I really enjoy connecting with her, and I've worked with her in the past, so I think you're going to enjoy this for sure. I'm super excited because it is our anniversary month. I started the Business Beauty Network podcast 5 years ago in July 15th. We actually launched on my birthday. I put off starting this podcast for a year before I actually stepped out and started it. And I am so glad that I finally stepped out in spite of fear, and started the Business Beauty Network podcast. And honestly, over the past 5 years, I've had a lot of hills and valleys. Life has life. Things have happened, and shifts has happened, as I'm sure all of us have had in our lives over these past 5 years. And I've grown, and the podcast has grown. And I'm just excited to still be here doing this and to continue to bring content your way. And I would love to hear from you. If the Business Beauty Network podcast has impacted you in any way, definitely reach out to me. I would love to hear from you you can just DM me on Instagram at I am Brandy Taylor, or you can email me at hello@businessbeautynetwork.com, but connect with me. I would love to hear from you, or you could just leave that on a review on the podcast. But however you feel led to do so, or comment right on this episode and let us know how you're enjoying the podcast. We also are looking for partners and sponsors. So if you're looking to partner with us, you can partner with us with a donation of any amount. You can go right to businessbeautynetwork.com to do that. So you can make a donation of any amount on businessbeautynetwork.com. That will be greatly and appreciated. Now here is a little bit of the bio from our guest today, Dr. Natasha Henry. Dr. Natasha Abigail Henry is a bilingual entrepreneur, medical doctor, and founder of Derm Intellect, a skincare brand dedicated to revolutionizing the skincare industry. Passionate about personal development, Dr. Henry empowers individuals to embrace their authenticity and achieve their full potential. With her background in medicine and her passion for skincare, health, and wellness, she is on a mission to build a brand that changes people's lives, inspiring her audience to pursue their dreams fearlessly. I think you're really going to enjoy this interview, and here it goes. Hey, welcome to the podcast. It is your host, Brandy Taylor. We have an awesome guest today, Dr. Natasha Henry. Welcome, Natasha.
Hi, Brandy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here, ready to get the conversation started.
I'm excited as well. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today. So before we learn more about you and all the things you're doing in your business, tell us something about yourself that most people would not know.
Hmm. That most people wouldn't know. Okay, well, I am bilingual. So, from looking at me, I don't really flaunt it that much, but I do speak Spanish and I lived in Mexico for 8 years. So that is a fact that when I do tell people, they're oftentimes like, oh my God, that's so interesting. It's super cool. You get to experience other people's culture. And, that's something that I feel like a lot of people in their lifetime should get to experience, just living somewhere where it's completely new, you don't speak the language, but you immerse yourself and basically become one with the people. So that's one fun fact that people wouldn't really know.
Wow. Well, living there for 8 years, I assume you kind of had to learn the language, right?
Yeah, for sure. It was challenging, but I mean, at the end of the day, when you're around people and you learn how they speak and how they interact with each other, it comes like second nature to you after a while.
I'm sure. Well, that is interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that. So in addition to English, Spanish. What other
Mhm.
languages?
Well, I do understand Portuguese because it is similar to Spanish. So I'm in the process of actually learning it. I do sing it. It's so weird. I sing Portuguese, but I can't really speak it that well. But because a lot of the music I listen to, like the gospel genre, they are Portuguese. So I'm like learning the language
Oh,
as well. So maybe I'll visit Brazil soon, or anybody from Brazil who's watching who wants to invite me. I am open to that and open to lessons. But yeah, Portuguese is another language that I do understand. I can, pick up one and two words.
awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. That's super cool because, girl, I don't know anything but English. Okay.
You gotta learn. Duolingo, Duolingo.
Right. I wanted to do that. That's one of the things I would love to learn another language for sure, but just haven't taken the time to do it. But that is awesome. So
Yeah,
thanks for sharing that.
no problem.
So tell us about your journey, like your beauty journey. I know you're a doctor and everything, but kind of take
Mhm.
us along your beauty journey.
Okay, beauty journey. If I'm being completely honest, I would have to say that my beauty journey began when I was probably like a little girl, like 4 or 5, because my influence and especially my I don't know, like the person who influenced me to join the beauty world was my grandmother, actually. I am from Jamaica and my grandmother, she, was born and raised in Jamaica and we call it the country area. So she was always used to using coconut oil on her face or some olive oil to like, hydrate her face, moisturize her face, and also doing like weird massages, like facial massages. My grandmother will make these crazy facial expressions, and I thought she was being crazy, but she was trying to like prevent wrinkles and the
Mhm.
whole nine. So that's where my journey to beauty actually began. And my grandmother, once again, her being my inspiration for everything, I'm 27 right now, and she has been a vegan all of my life. So she really introduced me to that world of health and wellness. And we know that beauty is not just external, it's also internal. So that is where my beauty journey actually started. Like the seed was planted there. But however, when I was older, I decided to go to med school and, study medicine and get like the scientific background and stuff like that. But my passion for the business side of it started in 2019, like right before the pandemic. I feel like all of us started
Yeah.
something during the pandemic. But right before the pandemic, that's when it started. And I started to make body butters in my apartment. So that time I was doing my medical internship. I was making these body butters, selling them to my local Mexican community, and people really loved it. I started the business. It was called at the time Bodylicious by Natasha. It was like a
Oh,
really
this is nice.
yes, it was like a really nice, playful name. And I was really enjoying the process of just like creating these products till eventually I went to making facial soaps, so like bar soaps. We did like oatmeal ones, charcoal ones. Then I branched into body oils. We did one of like calendula. We also did like a grape seed oil one for eczema as well. So I really started to put my foot into the entrepreneurial beauty world in 2019, 2020 thereabout. However, I had to pause because at the time I was still preparing for some medical license exam. That was my USMLE step one to do my medical specialty in the US. We will talk about that later on in the conversation because that's not where I ended up going. But I had to put my brand on pause, which I was a little bit sad about because I always noticed that whenever I was making my products, whenever, even if I was up at 2 a.m. making my products, I was so happy. I was so fulfilled. I didn't care if I had to go back into work or into the hospital. I just wanted to make my products. And I realized that, that was where my passion lied. However, I was like, okay, I can't be making body butters in my kitchen as a medical doctor. I just had this mentality that I have to do something bigger and better or whatever. Obviously nothing is wrong with that. But when you study a career as medicine, you're like, I spent all these years, like, I have to become a dermatologist. I have to become a cardiologist. So that is where I was planning to go. I said, okay, fine. I love beauty. I love the business. Let me do dermatology and then branch and launch my skincare brand like 7 years later. Obviously, that is not the path I decided to take. I decided that it's better for me to start right now versus to put myself in another world of medicine again that I know I didn't have like an immense passion for, and then leave my purpose, leave my passion for like another, who knows, another decade when maybe life happened. I would have children, be married, have a husband, and I wouldn't have the same drive and energy that I have right now as a 27-year-old to really pursue this lane and this purpose that I have for my life. So that is basically how I got into the beauty space. Then I moved to the US after I was done with Mexico. I spent 8 years in Mexico, and I went to the US for 1 year in 2022. And I decided to really focus on launching the brand. But I entered it from the angle of being an influencer, a content creator, because I was like, this is.
Let's talk about that before you go into
Yeah.
the story. So
Yeah.
I didn't know. So Natasha, I did not know you were making soaps and body butters at home. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't know
was
that. And and we got to talk about this whole thing because I've had people on the podcast who became nurses and eventually started successful brands, or were doctors that maybe their families, wanted them to do that, and they took that career path because that was what their families wanted them to do, but really realized that that wasn't what they truly wanted to do in their hearts and shifted into a different career path. So at what point did you realize, like, I want to do this instead of becoming a doctor? And I know that had to be like a mindset shift. I know that had to be a shocker to your parents. So kind of take us through that.
This is gonna sound really maybe funny, but I always knew I never really wanted to go to med school. I actually wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer at first. And I was like between bank managing and being a lawyer. And my family, they motivated me to do something in health because you would always have a job in healthcare, especially coming from a Black Caribbean family. There are only like 5 jobs that they accept. You're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, maybe an accountant, maybe an accountant, and an engineer. It's so limited. So I went to high school. I was always a good student, straight A's. Well, maybe not straight A's, but like A's and B's. And I did really well in my exams and, my high school examinations. And I said, okay, fine, I guess I'll go to med school. So directly out of med school at the age of 16, I actually moved to Mexico to study medicine. And from the first year I was there, I struggled like every other med student. I mean, we all struggle academically, we all struggle psychologically. But the struggle that I faced was really intense for me. Being in a new country at 16 years old, basically growing up in the latter years of being a teenager by yourself, away from family, not speaking the language, and learning a career as medicine, that is another language in itself, in another language. So I was basically learning 2 foreign languages at the same time. But the mentality that I had is that I'm going to finish, I'm going to push through, I'm not going to quit. And during the years, I kept on telling myself that it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Once I'm in the hospital, it's going to get better. And it was the complete opposite for me. I hated every single rotation that I took, even the simplest of rotation that was only 2 weeks, I hated it.
Really?
I hated it. I just hated being in the hospital. I hated the toxicity of the hospital more than anything else. Loved my patients, and I consider myself to be a great doctor. However, I just knew that that was not where my genius was going to thrive, inside the four walls of a hospital. But I was like constantly pushing through. I did really well in gynecology, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll go into gynecology and obstetrics. Then I rotated again as an intern, because my medical school, you do your rotations as a student and then again as an intern. So you basically see all the specialties twice. So you get a lot of experience. And in Mexico, we do a lot. I delivered like 10 babies. We
Oh,
very
wow.
hands on. Yeah, very hands on. So when I rotated as an intern, where I had to do more work, where I was like, okay, delivering babies, being the first assistant in surgeries and C-sections, I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. It's a lot of, it's the environment, very hostile, very toxic. Then I was like, okay, maybe dermatology, because I really love derm. But then at the end of the day, I realized that I can't have both. I was going to be like, okay, I'll do dermatology, and then on the side, I'll build my skincare business. But I realized that when I had to pause and study for my exam, first of all, I wasn't in a good mental state. I was struggling with my depression and anxiety, and then, struggling with post graduation depression, I call it, because you're like, you're finished now, you're expected to pursue this other part of your career, but you don't want to do it. So now you're confused, you don't know what to do. And it puts a lot of pressure on you, because you don't want to be a disappointment, a failure,
Mhm.
especially in your community. People look up to you. They're like, okay, this girl, she went to school to be a doctor. We're expecting her to be like the derm that we go to. And you're like, that is not what I want. Where do I draw the line? So it took me a while, after a lot of prayer, dedication, and really talking to a friend. I have a special friend who, he's always there for me through this. He's always been there for me during this entire process, because he's of the same mindset too, of entrepreneurship. And he told me, Natasha, we can't keep having this conversation. You're going to have to choose. You're going to have to choose either medicine or business. You literally cannot have both right now. And if you do, you're going to do one of them halfway. You're going to be 50-50 on business, 50-50 on medicine, and then you're not going to be 100% at anything. So when I went to the US and I started the world of like influence, and I was like, okay, I really like this, but I really want to be on the brands end. But I'm not sure where my lane is, because I'm a doctor, but I'm not a dermatologist, but I'm a content creator, but I'm not like an Instagram baddie who has like
Mhm.
50,000 followers. So where is my lane? And I struggled, because I didn't define who I wanted to be as yet. So honestly, Brandy, it was only up until last year, like last year, the beginning of last year, that I decided that this is what I want to do, the business aspect of building the skincare brand. And from then, I was able to meet my business partners, fly to South Korea to build a brand, and that's how everything started. So just last year, 2023, January of 2023.
So it took a decision, like you had to make a solid choice. And I know that's not easy, because
Yeah.
sometimes we could try to play both sides of things, because I've done
Mm-mm.
that in my career. Like I know I was supposed to be stepping into this next stage, but I was still doing the other thing because it was comfortable. But I'm glad your
Yeah.
friend told you, like, okay, you're gonna have to pick one, and you did that.
Yeah.
So was that scary, and what has that been like?
Oh, oh my God, it was so scary. I remember telling my parents, and they didn't understand at first. They're like, you need to finish, like, obviously I was done with med school, but they're like, you need to get like a medical specialty and, set yourself up. What if this fails? Whatever, whatever. And it was 3 years that I hadn't seen my parents, because I was always in the hospital. I was in Mexico, and there was a pandemic. So they never saw the new entrepreneurial side of Natasha. They always just saw the little girl, the medical doctor side. Then I came home, and I remember my parents, we did a photo shoot together for the Christmas, and my dad looked over at me. I was like organizing the entire photo shoot. I was like directing us. I coordinated our outfits. And my dad looked at me and he said, I get it now. you have an eye for this, you have a passion for the creative side of things. I see your genius. My mom, we went on a walk and I started to talk about Derm Intellect, which is the name of my brand. I started to talk about the process of business, and she looked at me, she said, I get it now. This is your passion, go for it. And when I tell you that that's all I needed, I didn't need my friends to get it. I didn't need people around me to get it, even though it was like always on my mind. That was the main thing that was super hard for me, not having my family support and seeing them do like a whole 360 and now fully support me. They're like my biggest supporters, is just the most fulfilling thing in the world. But I definitely struggled with thinking about what my peers would think about me, because in medicine there's a lot of I don't know, hierarchy in medicine, that if they look down on different types of specialties. Family med doctors don't get a lot of rep as a cardiothoracic surgeon, you know. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of who's the best, who's the smartest within the medical community. So I had to erase what other doctors were going to think about me as well. I had to erase what my community was going to think about me as well, and just thought about like what do I want to do? What's going to make me happy? So honestly, the hardest thing about this entire journey so far has been the internal dialogue with myself of not caring what other people were going to think about me.
Mm-hmm. I think we all go through that. And I
Yeah.
remember there was a time in my life where I felt like I should have had achieved a certain level of success. And I wasn't there, and I was at a certain age, right? And in my
Yeah.
mind, if you weren't at this certain age and you didn't have that, you were a failure. And I had to really think like, well, who said that? Who set that
Mm,
expectation? And who said that I was a failure? And who said that it had to happen at this particular age? Why couldn't it happen a year later or 5 years later? And I think that is really, that was game changing for me. And it's a constant thing for us all to like, we all kind of want to people please in a way. We
mhm.
want people to like us. We want, people to understand us. But as entrepreneurs, oftentimes most people won't. And so that's why I
Yeah.
always encourage, they won't. So that's why I always encourage people. It can be a lonely space. So you need to have
Mhm.
someone who understands what you're going through,
Yeah.
be connected around other entrepreneurs who are going where you want to go, and things of that nature can really be helpful. And also prayer and working on yourself. I feel
Yes.
like since I've been doing my own thing, I work on myself like 10 times more, and I have to.
Yeah.
Working on
Yeah.
my mind, working on what I'm thinking, and all of those things is very important as an entrepreneur for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, like having I was just talking to another friend last week, and I was like, I knew the founder's journey or the entrepreneurial journey was going to be difficult, but I never knew that it was going to be this difficult emotionally or mentally, because I feel so alone. I have my family around me. They love me, they're supportive. I don't have a lot of physical friends around me. I have like four friends who are like living all over the place, but we talk, but no one really gets it. So I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
so alone. I find myself just like literally praying a lot, talking to God, asking him, because I'm a believer, you know, asking God for strength, asking him for wisdom, how to navigate this space. And no matter how much like I vent to other friends or vent to my family, they're just like, you can do it, you can do it. And I'm like, thank you. I get it. With God, all things are possible. But that's exactly how I felt during med school. You know, people on the outside, they know that med school is hard, but they're not taking the exams for you. They're
Yeah.
not in the operating room for 10 hours. So they can like be on the sidelines being your biggest cheerleader, but at the end of the day, you're the one who's having to show up. And that also was something that had to make a decision about. I was like, I know being a founder is going to be hard. Being a doctor is also hard. Which hard do I choose? Which
Right.
hard makes me the happiest? And for me, it was entrepreneurship. For me, I didn't mind staying up at 2 a.m. researching, making products, or like talking to manufacturers, but I struggled staying up at 2 a.m. in the hospital, you know, like in that
Mm-hmm.
environment. So I just had to choose. So yeah, definitely having a communication with God and like working on yourself is one of the things that I'm learning right now in this entrepreneurial journey that is most important, because at the end of the day, you're going to have yourself and God, you know, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be the one in the trenches, building the brand, like networking. It's you, it's all on you. So yeah, for sure.
So fast forward, like, so 2023, you made your decision, you're all in. And like, how did you come up with the brand that you're working on now? Because you had these body butters and all of that. You didn't think you wanted to start a business with those products. How did we kind of shift things there?
Okay, so I wouldn't say that it was a shift. It was more of a transition. So after I did the body butters and the facial bars and the body oils, I actually started to formulate a serum when I was in Mexico. It took me like 3 times to get the consistency right because I wanted it to help to fight dark spots. However, obviously in my kitchen, I couldn't like test the pH and all of those things. I did order all the ingredients, all the raw material that I needed from different suppliers overseas and in Mexico as well. And it got to a point where I needed to send it to a lab to have them develop the product based on the formula that I was creating. So I took like little mini courses in like formula development and stuff. I was really educated myself about it all, but it got to a point where I couldn't do it on my own. So I left Mexico with a formula that I made for hyperpigmentation or dark spots. But I knew that the branding that I have wasn't something that I wanted to be like a global brand. It was just, it wasn't me anymore. It wasn't me anymore. It was like a pink label, and nothing is wrong with pink. I love pink, but it was really like childish, if I may say, in terms of like the branding. And I knew I wanted something that could be marketable, something that, you know, I could say I'm proud of this. So I did transition into the other more clinical, I guess, side of skincare when I went to the States. And obviously the brand name changed, everything changed. I still have the LLC for the old one, but that is, you know, we're gonna dissolve it. It's like taking on a new form, like a new version, a new identity of who Natasha is, like what I want the brand to represent. So it's definitely not like you know, completely disregarded the body care line because we are launching with body care. It's like the same product for face and body, but just from like a more scientific, clinical perspective, proven to work for people of color. So it was like an upgraded transition. That's what I would call it.
Now, how did you make the decision on what products you wanted to start out with?
Okay, yeah. I made that decision based off my personal struggles with my skin because I always struggled with eczema as a child. I struggled with eczema. My mom used to put like aloe vera in my scalp, rub me down with shea butter. And as an adult, I started to suffer with hormonal acne and dark spots. When I was in Mexico, my skin was clear for the most part. I did struggle with some breakouts, and then I was able to get it to a better place where it was clear. Then I moved to the US due to environmental changes, and I had a really bad experience with tretinoin. It was really irritating my skin. And just like the new changes in the US environment, I believe, really affected my skin. And I started again with hormonal issues, and I started with acne and a lot of hyperpigmentation. And I was like, I have to create something that helps people of color with these issues because a lot of things on the market are not made for us. They're not made with us in mind. We are oftentimes an afterthought, as we saw with the whole youth wear situation this week. Like, it's really sad, you know? And I wanted to make something that I could use as a person for my own issues. So I was struggling with the acne, struggling with the dark spots, and I was like, okay, let's get to work. Because if it works for me right now, I guarantee that, you know, I can't guarantee anything, but I'm like almost sure that it will work for other people of color, and not just people of color, but, you know, other demographic as well. Because chances are that if it works for our skincare needs, like the dark spots, it will work for someone of a lighter skin tone. So that is what fueled my development of these products. And I also realized that a lot of people were starting to ask for products for the body to help with the dark spots on the body, to help with an even skin tone. So I thought, you know, why not just merge the two things into one product? Because a lot of brands, they're making a separate range, like they have a body care range and a face range. And I said, okay, enough with the noise in the industry. We have so many products on the market, and a lot of it is from like a money making perspective. Brands want to launch 50 dozen products if you have like a 10-step skincare routine, which I have been guilty of. But at the end of the day, you don't need that. And I wanted to eliminate the noise in the skincare industry, but still create products that are effective, especially for people of color, based off my own skincare struggles. So it really was born with like empathy in mind as well.
Yeah, that is awesome. So you base the product based off of like some of the issues that you had yourself. And I love that
Right.
it's going to be face and body, because I am that girl, like I don't want 10 things to do, like
Yeah.
I don't mind doing the things, but who needs 10 serums, like
Yeah.
that's
The
too many.
reality is no one, no one. I've definitely been there, getting a bunch of PR from brands that you get to try like so many serums. And I honestly believe that that was one of the issues why my skin was always so constantly irritated, because I
Oh
was like trying serums, trying different products. And I was like, no, I'm not doing anything else. You can send me PR. I'll probably post about it from an ingredient perspective, but I'm not going to say, oh, I used this and it felt really good on my skin. I had to stop. So now my routine is honestly 2 to 3 steps, including excluding sunscreen if it's the morning routine. But if it's a nighttime routine, it's like 2 to 3 steps max.
I love that. I love to keep it
Yeah.
simple. And I find a lot of people are that way, because if you give people too many steps, they're not going to do them all consistently.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then it can be confusing. What should I do first? Or, like, a confused mind, like it says, a confused mind never buys. A confused mind probably won't use the products either.
Yeah, and it's so easy to like think that everybody knows how to use skincare, because like I'm in this world. So like online, all the content I consume, or most of the content I consume, it's other skincare influencers or dermatologists. So it's like I'm in a bubble of like, oh yeah, we all know about skincare, cosmetic chemists. But then I talk to my mom and she's like, what is this? What's a toner? what is a toner? What is an exfoliant? What is it? And I'm just like, just use this one serum and wash your face and call it a day.
Yep, keep it simple. It definitely. So how did you decide what to name your brand? Because I love the name.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for that. Derm Intellect. I decided to name it Derm Intellect because, one, I really wanted you to know what the brand was about from the name. I didn't want to have to like guess, oh, is this a skincare brand? Is this a hair care brand? Whatever. But I wanted it to encompass everything of dermatology. So dermatology is not just skin, it's your nail, it's your hair. So if we do decide to expand in the future, Derm Intellect would cover that as well. Also, the intellect part of it, I really wanted people to understand that when they know better, they tend to do better. There is a there is a there is a content creator. Her name is Cassandra. She's a skincare content creator, and she calls her audience skintellects. She calls them skintellects. I was like, oh, that's really cool. We could do something like that with Derm Intellect as well. So I said, okay, let's do Derm and then let's join the intellect, because I honestly believe that you learn about your skin and you learn about your skincare conditions, why this is happening to you. You learn how to treat it, and then you can create basically a treatment plan for yourself, obviously consulting with a dermatologist if needed, but you create that treatment plan for yourself and then treat your skincare concerns based off what you're experiencing, because that was something that happened to me. I didn't know anything about skincare, but the moment I started to really investigate, to read my ingredient list to see, okay, does this make sense? Will this cause irritation? I became more educated about skincare and I started to make better skincare choices, thus leading to the name of the brand, Derm Intellect. We want to be a brand that teaches you about your skin as well, but we want to give you the tools to actually take care of your skin, aka our products. So that's how I came up with the name.
Awesome. I love that. I think that is awesome for sure.
Thank you.
So you went into like, I know you were going to go into this, but I wanted to kind of go through the story more. But I know you became an influencer. You started working with other skincare brands. Now tell us a little bit about that journey. Like, when did you start the influencer journey and start working with other skincare brands? And why not just go that route? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I started my content creation journey in Mexico. I think it was 2021 when I started my TikTok account. I started with 93 followers. I said, you know what, this is what I want to do. I started to post like health and wellness content at first, like general medicine content. And then I realized that, hey, okay, I really love skincare. Let's just go full fledged into skincare. So I was going to my job as a doctor. I was consulting at a pharmacy with a doctor's office, and I would like make videos in between in between my patients. I'd make videos before I go to work. So I really started to have my passion for skincare before I transitioned and went to the US for a couple months. So I went to the US 2022, and that's when I really started to work with bigger brands, because brands were reaching out to me, but because I was in Mexico, for some reason they didn't want to work with me. I don't know, if they ship products. Yeah, it was so strange to me that I know a lot of Mexican influencers work with these brands, but I guess the Mexican franchise of the brands, whatever. So I said, okay, fine. I guess I have to transition and see what the other side can bring. I went to the US in September, and then I started to get collaborations. I got my first collaboration with the Inculist, a brand that I really love and admire. So I was really excited about that. Then afterwards, we got CeraVe. I did like a production for them in studio. That was really fun. I've worked with brands like Murad, Paula's Choice. So just being like seeing brands gravitate towards me because of my medical background was really inspiring and motivating, knowing that, okay, I don't know what my lane is, but I have this knowledge in my head. I make content. I love skincare. Let's just put it together and see what happens. And, I really got some cool opportunities. I went to Turkey last year with Nivea to shoot a campaign that's actually going to be aired this year, 2024, in June. So look out for that. So that was super exciting as well. And I've also been on the consulting side of the influencing industry. So I was with a really big brand, can't say their name, but they had a workshop where they were developing like new products, and they wanted to get feedback of like what the consumers were craving. So I got to see like how brands come up with their product ideas, like, which is really great for me as a brand founder right now. So it was just like a all-rounded experience as an influencer. I decided to take that route, and I decided not to stay there because I just know that there's a bigger calling on my life. And while I will always be a content creator, I love creating content, I want to be the one creating the brand. I don't want to be the one begging to go on a brand trip. I want to be the one inviting influencers on a brand trip, And it's like influencing is a great field, and there are a lot of things that we can say about influencers, but at the end of the day, it takes a special type of person to get up every day, to post content, to pitch themselves to brands. And honestly, it is a career that, for me, I believe that it can be sustainable if you know what to do and if you do the right thing. So a lot of influencers, they will like start their online coaching business, or they start their own brands, when they grow like a big following, because just relying on the public opinion of you isn't sustainable. Let's just be real. In 2024, you can get canceled for anything, and then your image is gone. TikTok is going to get banned. What are you going to do? So for me, I always knew that I'm going to use this as a means to like build up my following, to build up my connections, to build up some credibility. But at the end of the day, baby, I'm launching my own brand. Like I'm not staying.
All right.
I'm not staying. Yeah, like I'm not staying. It's transitioning, just like how medicine as well, for me, I felt like that has given me my platform. As a medical doctor, you get to be in rooms that maybe other people wouldn't get to be in, which I'm super grateful for. But everything in life, I believe that you can pivot from. I'm a huge advocate for pivoting, for change. I'm a huge advocate for just like building off what you already have. So I decided that, building a brand was the best thing for me, because I really love being an entrepreneur, and being an influencer is being an entrepreneur. But there is a different side of it when it comes to like building a brand and building an empire. And that is my biggest dream, to build an empire, to build hospitals for people. That is what I want to do. I don't want to be in the hospital treating patients. I want to build hospitals. I want to fund clinical trials that include people of color. I want to give influencers the opportunity to work with my brand. To simply put it, I just have huge dreams.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I love that about you. Like you look at the big picture and you're going for it. And sometimes some people find that hard to do, or they're afraid to step out. But one thing I could say is you're not afraid to take a chance or, to step out there. And I want to talk about that because I know you met your partner at like a conference. So I want you to kind of share that, because networking is a really big thing in entrepreneurship. And sometimes I find a lot of entrepreneurs, beautypreneurs, they don't get out there enough. They don't network enough. And when I started to do that, it really changed the game for me. So I want you to kind of share like how you were able to go to a conference, network, and meet your partner.
Yeah, that's a long story in itself, but I'll shorten it. Faith is a huge component of my life. And I do a lot of things by faith. I step out in faith. Remember I told you that I got the partnership with Sarah V, and I put away some money, and then at the end of the day, like I had bills to pay, whatever. I took the last money that I had from that partnership and I bought the ticket. The ticket to that conference was like 2,000 something. My dad was like, "You have to go there. It's a great networking opportunity. You have to go." I was like, "Dad, I don't have any money. Whatever." And I was like, "You know what? Fine. You're a man of God," because my dad's a pastor and he's near a prophet. Okay. So I was like, "Listen, I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna pray about it. I'm gonna go." So I stepped out in faith. I went to the conference, and day one passed, day two passed, and I think I met my business partner on the third day, because the thing was like a 4-day conference. I think I met her on the third day. We hit it off immediately. I started to tell her about what I'm doing, what I'm building. It so happened that she also went to med school to be a doctor, but she didn't end up like pursuing the dermatology part of it because she also wanted to be a dermatologist. So that like similarity, that common ground, we really connected on that. She's also like in the scientific field as well. She has a PhD in pharmacology, but she also has a world of experience in business, being a cross-border strategic expansion strategist. So she helps businesses establish themselves across the globe. So she's been in the industry for like over 20 plus years. So when I got, connected with her, I said, okay, I like her as a person first. That is the first thing. I like her as a person first. We connected. Let's keep this connection going. I think I got home. I immediately like added her on LinkedIn. I emailed her. We started texting. And that was like February of last year. And we got to work probably 3 weeks later. No less than that. We got to work 3 weeks. Yeah, we got to work. And so far, she's been helping me to like really build this company, really teaching me about entrepreneurship, kind of being a mentor as well. So if I was staying within myself, because I am an introvert, a lot of people don't believe me, but I am an introvert. But when it gets to me, when it gets to me stepping out there and like talking about my brand and like, like just being a businesswoman, I can show up. And I believe that's what a lot of entrepreneurs need to do. You have to get out there. I don't care if you don't have the money. I don't care if you don't have the connections. Get out there, step out in faith. If you believe in God, He will always provide a way for you. He will always make a way. But sometimes He needs you to like exhibit that faith first. And that has been like the driving force in my life for sure. Even LinkedIn, I do want to suggest leveraging connections on LinkedIn as well. It may seem trivial like another social media platform. It is not. It's really powerful.
Yes, it is. One of my favorite quotes is that when you were talking, I was reminded of is by Joyce Myers. She says, if you do what you can do, then God will do what you cannot do. So you got to do your part, right?
Yeah. That is always true. Like I'm one of my mentors always tells me God doesn't work in inertia. Like you have to get moving. You have to move so that He can continue to, to complete the equation. So yeah.
So take us through the journey. Like where are you at now with your brand, and when do you plan to launch, and all those great things?
Yeah, so we have accomplished a lot in this year of building the brand. So right now we are in the final stages before launch. We are pre-launch, so we have our product developed. We have everything ready to go. We plan to launch in July or latest August of 2024 this year. We are launching this year. Right now we are fundraising, so that is taking up all of my time. And as an entrepreneur with no, like I don't have 50 people running behind me as a team, it's time consuming to fundraise, but I'm super grateful. I had my first investor meeting yesterday, so that went pretty well to get like the insight from them, and I have another one after our interview today. So we are in the process of fundraising. We're trying to raise capital to help us with our launch. And yeah, that's where we are. We're ready to go. We're building our email list. So, you guys who are listening or watching, feel free to join the email list to be on our wait list for the products. But we're super excited. We know that the market is craving this, and there is a market demand for our brand and the products based off the feedback that I have been getting on my personal social media and market research that we have been doing. So that's where we are right now. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I have all of those links in the show notes so that people want to sign up for your new email list and all those great things. I'll have that in the show notes for sure.
Thank you.
But that is awesome. I think I know with the drive that you have, you're definitely going to do some great things with your brand. And you are an awesome storyteller. So when you say that you are an introvert, I'm like, what? Like, so like, how did you become such a great storyteller?
Honestly, I think two things. Growing up in the church as a child, you're always forced to like go up and say things like say this Bible text or whatever. So as a child, I was really shy. I didn't really like going up, but every time I had to go up, there were people who would train us to like speak. So I really have to give credit to the people, the aunties and the uncles from the church from when I was like 5 and 6, who really trained me how to speak and use my voice even when I didn't want to use it. Then growing up in high school, I did debate. So I was a part of the debate team, and I had an amazing mentor. Shout out to Mrs. Gale, who really always trained us on how to speak, how to, use our storytelling skills, how to do research and then incorporate it, how to be a better communicator. Then in med school, I really lost that voice. To be honest with you, I did. I was in a very traumatic relationship, let's just put it there. So I really didn't know how to like speak up for myself until I got out of that situation. And then I kind of tapped into the Natasha who used to sing in church and do all these things in church, and Natasha who did debate, and realized that at a certain point in time, this Natasha has to come to the forefront because my story needs to be told, and content also helped with that. I was not a good storyteller when I started to do content, but practicing after a while, knowing the hooks, the highs and the lows, that is how I really am developing that skill, because I think, I'm still developing it. And also reading helps you to communicate. People underestimate reading because then you talk about things that, you have topics to talk about, you have a different perspective, a different outlook on life, and you can like also learn how to communicate reading. I highly recommend the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That is an amazing book for any entrepreneur, any content creator, any person who just wants to like know how to network and to tell your story and to create connections. There's also another book called The Art of Storytelling, I think it's called. I don't remember who it's by, but it's a book about storytelling. I highly recommend that book as well. So that's how I developed my skill and still am developing.
Yeah, I think we're always a work in progress, right? So we're always working on, ourselves, and at least we should be, right? So definitely, especially as entrepreneurs, I think we really have to. All the hats that you wear as an entrepreneur, all the many things you do. So I love that. I'll definitely have those book mentions in the show notes for sure. So let's forecast like 5 years from now. Like I like to ask people who are starting their brands, where do you see yourself in 5 years with your brand?
Okay, definitely. Yeah, in 5 years, you're going to see Derm Intellect not just all over the US, but it is our aim to be a global brand dominating markets like the Caribbean, where I'm from. We're oftentimes overlooked, not because there isn't a demand here, but simply because nobody cares to put a brand here. Nobody cares to like cater to us. So definitely see us all over the globe. We are going to be $1 billion skincare and beauty conglomerate. That is where I see my brand going. And with the help of God and an amazing team, it will be possible. So yeah, just look out for us.
So what advice would you give someone that's looking to start their own brand right now?
I would tell you to bet on yourself. you will never regret not betting on yourself. A lot of times we do things for other people. We do things for, the accolades or the optics of it. But a lot of times being an entrepreneur is one of the few things that you're going to do for yourself out of service to others. Being an entrepreneur is not a selfish thing. You're creating a brand, you're creating a product for other people. You're not doing this for you. Yes, it may come out of a need, for example, me with my own skincare issues, but at the end of the day, it's to help other people. So you are going to really be in a position to help other people if you just bet on yourself. If you never try, you're never going to know. And if you fail, so what? My coworker, she said something the other day to me, and I really, not my coworker, my co-founder, sorry. She said something to me the other day, and I really appreciate it. She said, failure, it's not failure. You just have to find where it fits in the puzzle. You have to learn how to reconstruct your failures. So, yes, I started a skincare brand in Mexico and it failed, but look at where I am right now, about to launch bigger and better. We reconstructed that failure. So, you have to learn how to reconstruct your failures and you have to bet on yourself, knowing that if you don't do it, who's going to do it? And if there are other people who are already doing it, there's nobody like you out there. We have so many different water brands, but my family, we just buy one water brand. Why? Because we love that one. And they're doing well in their business, and other water brands are doing well in their business. So there's always going to be room for you, but nobody's going to know about you. Nobody's going to know about your product if you never bet on yourself. So go for it. I don't care if you have to start over at the age of 30, 40, 50, 60. If it's inside of you, bet on yourself and go for it.
I love that. I love that. Now, Natasha, what would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned thus far on your entrepreneurial journey?
Biggest lesson I've learned so far. The biggest lesson, I think, one of the biggest lessons I've learned so far is you have to communicate. You have to learn how to communicate your likes, your dislikes. You have to learn how to communicate what you want because a lot of things, especially I'm dealing with manufacturers in South Korea. So we're different in time zones, different in like communication. And if I am not like communicating at a level where everybody understands, not in terms of like, intellectually, but like saying that, okay, this is what I want, step A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. A lot of things get lost in the pipeline. If I'm there, I'm not pleased with something and I don't speak up, your brand is going to be affected. So that is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is you have to learn how to master the art of communication, of communicating, and you also have to be an empathetic communicator. So oftentimes people think that because you are a brand owner or you're a boss, you have to be mean and step on people to get to the top. And that is not the case. People deserve love, people deserve respect, and the way how you communicate that, which is why I highly recommend reading the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is going to tell a lot about you as a person. So as I'm building my brand, I'm just learning to build on empathy, both for my clients, both for my consumers, and both for the people who work along with me, and just to communicate effectively. That is the biggest lesson I've learned so far.
Awesome. Well, Natasha, it has been amazing having you on the podcast today. Can you tell everybody how they can connect with you or stay in touch?
Yeah, sure. So I am on Instagram and TikTok as Dr. Natasha Henry. So that is DrNatashaHenry. If you want to shoot me an email, you can shoot me an email at drnatashahenry@gmail.com as well. I'll be more than happy to connect with anyone. I'm also on LinkedIn as Dr. Natasha Henry. And don't forget to follow Derm Intellect as well. Derm Intellect is Derm Intellect, DERM Intellect, ENTELLECT, on all social media platforms.
Awesome. I will have all of that in the show notes. Dr. Natasha Henry, everybody. As always, stay great, and we're out. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.